You set a goal, you meant it, you wrote it down, maybe even told someone about it, and then, weeks later, it quietly disappeared. Sound familiar? Most people think this happens because they lack willpower. They think they just didn't want it enough. But the real reason is not what you think. It's not about desire, it's about design. Your brain was never built to chase a goal that lives in the future. It was built to respond to what's happening right now, in this exact moment. And that single mismatch is the reason most goals quietly die before they're ever reached. Here's the mechanism. Psychologist Roy Baumeister spent years studying something called self-control, and what he found upends the popular idea of willpower entirely. Willpower isn't a fixed trait you either have or don't. It behaves more like a muscle. It gets tired. Every decision you make throughout the day, from what to eat, to what to say, to how to respond to a stressful email, draws from the same limited reserve. By the time you reach the moment you actually needed discipline, for your workout, for your diet, for your goal, that reserve is already running low. So the problem was never your character, it was your battery. But there's a deeper layer to this. Even when your willpower is fully charged, most goals still fail. Why? Because a goal, on its own, is just a wish with a deadline attached. Your brain doesn't know what to do with, I want to get healthier, or I want to write a book. Those are outcomes, not instructions. And your brain runs on instructions. This is where psychologist Peter Gollwitzer's research becomes essential. Gollwitzer discovered that people who form what he called implementation intentions, specific if-then plans, like if it's 7 a.m., then I put on my running shoes, were dramatically more likely to follow through than people who simply held the same goal in mind. The goal wasn't the missing piece, the trigger was. Your brain doesn't act on intentions, it acts on cues. This is the twist most people never hear. You've been told to want your goal more, to visualize it, to feel it deeply, but intensity of desire was never the bottleneck. Vagueness was. Think about the goals you've abandoned. Were they specific? Or were they broad, hopeful, undefined? Get in shape, save more money, be more productive. These phrases feel motivating, but they give your brain nothing to grab onto. No trigger, no moment. No if-then. Researchers Edwin Locke and Gary Latham spent decades studying what actually separates people who achieve goals from people who don't, and their findings were strikingly consistent. Specific, clearly defined goals outperformed vague ones almost every time. Not because specific goals feel better, because they're executable. Your brain can act on write 300 words at 8 a.m. in a way it simply cannot act on become a writer. So here is the real reason 99% of people never reach their goals. It isn't laziness. It isn't a lack of ambition. It's that they're asking their brain to run a program it was never given the instructions for. Now think about what happens when the instructions are missing. Your brain defaults to the path of least resistance. Not because you're weak, but because uncertainty is expensive, biologically. Every time you have to decide, in the moment, whether now is the moment to act, you burn through exactly the resource Baumeister showed you have the least of. This is why willpower alone was always going to fail you. It was never designed to make hundreds of decisions a day. It was designed to make a few, in moments that had already been pre-decided. So what does this mean for you, practically? It means the goal itself was never the problem. The gap was in translation. Turning a wish into a cue-based instruction your brain could actually execute without a fight. Start by taking whatever goal you're holding on to right now and ask yourself one question. What is the exact trigger? Not, I'll exercise more, but when I close my laptop at 6 p.m., I put on my shoes and walk out the door. Not, I'll read more, but when I get into bed, I open the book before I open my phone. This single shift, from outcome to trigger, is what separates people who quietly follow through from people who quietly give up. It isn't more motivation. It isn't more discipline. It's a better instruction. You don't need to want it more. You need your brain to know exactly when to act. Because the truth is, you were never failing your goals. Your goals were failing to give your brain anything to act on.